FaceTime or whatever. So, job displacement is part of technological innovation and evolution. The challenge is that when you see a robot, you feel like that is more like me. And especially now with the humanoid robots that we and other companies are developing very prominently, right? Tesla with its demos recently, and the viral videos that we put out showing Atlas doing work in a simulated automotive manufacturing plant. People think, oh wow, that is a job anyone can do, and now no one's going to be able to do. So I think we feel it more emotionally, but it is the same story. The way to address it, we're trying to engage government in job training and workforce training STEM programs to help the workers whose jobs might change, help them use the robots and automation so that their job is safer, easier, more efficient. In the case of our stretch robot, that's a robot that moves 50-pound boxes out of the truck. People hate having that job. They get hurt, they leave the job within a couple months because they just can't stand it anymore. They want better jobs in the warehouse. So when we put the stretch robot into those warehouses, and you can watch the DHL video we did, I think about a year ago, the workers love it because that robot is lifting the box. They are managing, supervising, maintaining the robots. To me, like that's the ideal outcome for physical tasks, particularly in light of the demographic issues that we're having with low birth rates, mostly overseas in Asia, but also increasingly here. We're not going to have enough people to even do these jobs. So we're not really displacing, we're moving people into better, safer jobs while the robots do the hard, dangerous, dull work. And to me, that's an ideal outcome, but we need to make sure we got the training and education.
So just 2 days ago, I was at another conference, and Coran, who is the president and CEO of Google, had the same question being asked of her. And she brought up a great point, which, in hindsight, we should always think about. So 100 years ago, 63% of the jobs that we have today did not exist. Okay, so we don't know, and like you, Lynn, I'm also a professor at, I teach at NYU. I sometimes feel that for those kids, because many of the jobs that they will be going out and establishing themselves in have not been yet created. Sometimes it's also very difficult for us to teach them stuff because I think those skills that are more important right now is resourcefulness, the social skills, versus domain knowledge, because the domains are really shifting at this point. So I really feel like for the younger generation, in fact, I think it's a great place to be because there are new and exciting areas emerging, and you can literally, there are micro-learning environments where people can actually teach themselves a ton of stuff, so very easily. So learning has become democratized and completely free in many cases. And then the other aspect of it is, the older generation, I guess myself, we have to now make that effort, not just rely on our employers or others to enable us. Again, go into those micro-learning or other types of learning environments and upskill ourselves. And of course, then it's the government, then it's society, then it's your own employer who should look at deploying resources away from those manual, repetitive, non-strategic tasks to the more strategic. And how do they do that? They may need to upskill the workforce. So there needs to be some investment, but I think that investment is much lower today than it would have been back then.
I would agree with the points that have already been made. I think we should look, there will inevitably be job transitions, and ultimately that means that some will no longer exist. I'm hoping that means the more manual, laborious, the things that injure us and cause harm to us, the things that wear down our joints, that make us go blind from staring at screens all day, those sorts of jobs are the ones we really hope to remove with robotics and artificial intelligence. That will then allow us to do the more strategic things, or the more creative elements, the things that are more enjoyable and more fulfilling. That being said though, I think we should look at this similar to being an Iron Man suit rather than a Terminator. We're not trying to just replace humanity and society as a whole. What we're doing is we're trying to enable those individuals to use the really best part of themselves, and whether that be the critical thinking, whether that be the creative elements, whether that be doing the more technical tasks that we really sort of only trust humans to do, regardless of whether or not machines better. I think looking at it that way would make people a lot more comfortable, because the intention is not to just replace them. It might be for some of the roles just to do with efficiencies, but in the long run, we're still going to be here whether we like it or not. So we're having to think in the long term, and because of that, we should really be looking at how we can best leverage us as a whole, and that will be things like upskilling, that will be government initiatives like we're seeing in the US and in the UK and the EU already. All these things are going to have to come together to really push stuff forward.
I do want to add one other thing. This isn't necessarily robotics, but with generative AI, we now have the opportunity of, in fact, Sam Altman of OpenAI made this point, that we are going to see more and more billion-dollar businesses run by just one person, just because they have all these tools at their hands. And I can tell you, I run my own business after having worked at enterprises and things like that. And the open source solutions that are out there, those are just really game changers for me. So I think that there's this whole other, especially if you look at the creator economy, that is exploding right now, and it's not just influencers and things that we think about. It's all kinds of creators.
Wow, amazing! I will tell that to my daughter, whose dream is to become influencer.